To go to the moon would cost perhaps $100,000 a pound. Yeah, the Chinese have announced that they're going to go to the moon. In fact, they will probably beat the United States. NASA last year admitted that their time frame is behind the Chinese time frame. It all began when Michio Kaku, renowned theoretical physicist and futurist, stepped onto the stage at a highly anticipated space science symposium in Geneva. He was known for his bold ideas and sweeping visions of the cosmos. But this time, there was something in his demeanor, an urgency, perhaps even a tinge of unease that immediately set the room on edge. The title of his presentation had already sparked waves of speculation. The Moon, a paradigm shift in understanding. Most assumed it would be a discussion of past lunar missions or speculative talk of colonization. But what followed shook the scientific community and the broader public to its core. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Kaku began by unveiling new data gathered from a collaborative project involving international space agencies and quantum deep imaging satellites. These devices, recently deployed around the Moon's orbit, utilized gravitational lensing and subsurface radar scanning that had never before been attempted at this level of precision. The findings were not only unexpected, they defied conventional models of celestial formation. The first bombshell, the Moon's density readings were significantly inconsistent with its previously calculated mass and core composition. The instruments indicated vast internal cavities, some stretching hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface. These voids weren't just natural hollows or lava tubes. Their symmetrical arrangement and regular spacing suggested structural integrity, engineered design. The Moon, it seemed, was not entirely a natural satellite. Kaku stood still as the images displayed behind him. Clean geometric patterns beneath the regolith. Energy signatures that pulsed at regular intervals, sections that appeared to be reflective alloys buried beneath eons of lunar dust. There was an audible shift in the room's atmosphere. Scientists leaned forward, expressions taut. Kaku pressed on, revealing thermal imaging data that showed unnatural heat signatures emanating from beneath the lunar crust, specifically from these cavernous regions. These temperatures didn't correlate with volcanic activity or residual heat from the Moon's formation. Instead, they matched patterns seen in dormant but still active reactor cores. This wasn't guesswork. The data was cross-verified from 3 independent space agencies across Europe and Asia. Something inside the Moon was still giving off energy. Energy that shouldn't be there. Then came the gravitational anomalies. Since the early Apollo missions, small inconsistencies in lunar gravity had been noted, but often dismissed as measurement errors or local terrain effects. The new data, however, painted a different picture. Gravitational fluctuations were mapped and visualized. They weren't random. They formed a grid-like pattern that correlated with the locations of the voids and geometric anomalies beneath the surface. This grid, stretching from pole to pole, suggested not only an artificial distribution of mass, but also a potential mechanism, perhaps ancient, perhaps dormant, that had once allowed the Moon to regulate its position with far more precision than previously thought. Kaku didn't propose a definitive explanation. He refused to utter phrases like alien origin or artificial satellite outright. But the implications of his findings were clear. The Moon, long thought to be a byproduct of a Mars-sized body colliding with Earth in the early solar system, might not be what humanity believed it to be. It could be partially constructed, a shell over something else, something ancient, something deliberate. The implications rippled far beyond the scientific world. If the Moon was not a fully natural object, then the history of the Earth itself would need to be rewritten. The Moon's gravitational effect on Earth is fundamental. It regulates tides, stabilizes our axial tilt, and affects biological rhythms across all living organisms. Its presence has played a critical role in the evolution of life. What if that presence wasn't an accident of cosmic mechanics, but a planned intervention? The room was quiet as Kaku laid out a hypothetical. Suppose an advanced intelligence had placed the Moon in orbit. Such a feat would require unimaginable technological sophistication. The Moon is disproportionately large compared to Earth compared to other planet-satellite pairs in our solar system. Its orbital mechanics are suspiciously perfect, an almost exact match in angular size to the Sun during eclipses, creating total solar eclipses only observable from Earth. For decades, this had been dismissed as coincidence. But now, with structural anomalies and unexplained internal energy patterns, That coincidence no longer seems so innocent. Kaku noted that any civilization capable of engineering a satellite like the Moon would not be bound by the physics as humanity currently understands them. It would be operating on a level that transcended current models, what he often referred to as a Type 2 or even Type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Such entities wouldn't merely observe cosmic evolution. They would guide it, seed it, perhaps even curate it. He moved on to cultural implications, carefully treading the line between scientific discourse and philosophical inquiry. Throughout history, ancient civilizations had revered the Moon with reverence that bordered on obsession. Myths across continents, from the Sumerians to the Mayans to the Egyptians, spoke of the Moon arriving suddenly, or of moonless nights before its appearance. Such stories were long dismissed as metaphor or myth. But now, Kaku suggested, perhaps those ancient memories held more truth than modern minds were willing to admit. There was no trace of theatrics in his voice, only the weight of realization. If the Moon had been placed, deliberately positioned, what then was humanity's place in the cosmic narrative? Were humans the product of random evolution or the intended result of environmental conditions optimized by external intervention? The Moon's perfect tidal lock, its orbital synchronicity, its life-stabilizing effects. These weren't small accidents. They were planetary-scale conditions that enabled civilization itself. Kaku transitioned to discussing timescales. The age of the Moon had always appeared slightly older than the Earth, a paradox in most formation theories. But if it were an inserted body, something that predated Earth's current biosphere, then the paradox resolved itself. The Moon could have been introduced after Earth cooled, perhaps even with the express purpose of influencing the development of life. He refrained from stating any particular theory as fact. Instead, he urged the scientific community to approach the question with open minds. "We are at the edge," he said, his voice calm but firm, "of a new understanding of our world and our origins." This was not a moment for dogma or territorial academia. This was a time for integration, for astrophysics to meet archaeology, for myth to meet quantum theory, for planetary science to stretch into consciousness studies. And as he stood before an audience of hundreds, thousands more watching via live stream, the questions loomed larger than ever. If the Moon wasn't entirely natural, what was its purpose? Was it a beacon, a stabilizer, a vault, a machine? And was it still active in some way that had yet to be understood? The implications sprawled like roots beneath the surface of collective thought. Every telescope turned to the Moon took on new significance. Every old myth of sky gods descending from the Moon no longer felt like mere allegory. Every satellite image, every mineral sample, every recorded tremor of moonquakes was reanalyzed with a fresh lens. What struck many was not just the scientific audacity of the claims, but the humility with which they were delivered. Kaku wasn't declaring revelation. He was opening a doorway. And behind that doorway lay a future where the Moon could no longer be viewed as a passive gray rock in the sky. It was perhaps the most complex, most enigmatic structure within reach, and humanity had only just begun to decode it. The press conference that followed the symposium was subdued, even reverent. When asked whether the Moon posed any danger, Kaku calmly responded that there was no evidence of hostile mechanisms, only ancient technology, silent but persistent. "Whatever is or was there," he said, "has been watching for a long time." As news of the revelation spread, debates ignited across every corner of society. Was the Moon a relic of an ancient cosmic engineering project, a shelter from a forgotten epoch? Could it contain archives, machinery, or even sentient systems now dormant? Universities launched new research initiatives almost overnight. The private space sector, already racing toward lunar colonization, now found itself thrust into an entirely new frontier, not just physical, but existential. Humanity's timeline, once assumed to be relatively self-contained, was now possibly linked to a broader, more mysterious cosmological timeline. If the Moon was part of an artificial network, if it shared properties with other moons or planetoids elsewhere, then Earth might not be unique. Other planets might harbor similar satellites, each playing a role in planetary development. The galaxy, once seen as a dark ocean of random stars and rocks, could now be a vast stage of intelligent pattern. The technological signatures within the Moon's interior hinted at purposeful design, patterns of intention, communication, and memory. Kaku urged humanity to approach this revelation with maturity, not conquest, viewing the Moon not as a resource, but as a possible guardian or partner in Earth's journey. His findings triggered a wave of multidisciplinary re-evaluations, transforming the moon from a celestial neighbor into a potential artifact of profound significance. Fields like astroarchaeology surged to the forefront, as ancient myths and global stories depicting the moon as a guide or divine presence gained renewed attention. Physicists and biologists revisited the moon's nearly perfect orbit and gravitational influence, theorizing it may have been engineered to trigger evolutionary and ecological changes. Even its role in human timekeeping and spirituality took on deeper meaning, possibly reflecting subconscious recognition of its designed purpose. Transient lunar phenomena, once dismissed, were now examined as signs of ongoing activity. Meanwhile, moonquakes, resonant and prolonged, were reinterpreted as evidence of hollow or structured interiors. Together, these discoveries redefined the moon not as a natural satellite, but as a complex, ancient mechanism still pulsing with mystery. Tidal locking revealed the moon's surprising anomalies: unnaturally perfect craters, angular ridges, and radar reflections hinting at ultradense, unknown alloys aligned with gravitational irregularities. Far from inert, the moon now appears a possible remnant, or sentinel, of an ancient intelligence, prompting proposals for deep core drilling, seismic mapping, and nanobot exploration to uncover hidden archives, mechanisms, or higher-dimensional structures. Private companies and space agencies are racing to study regions like Mare Fragoris, where circular formations and electromagnetic oddities suggest buried installations. Theories range from a planetary-scale communication interface to a gestational shell that guided life's evolution, and even cognitive resonance technologies designed to interact with human consciousness. While skepticism remains, these data-driven possibilities have transformed our view of the moon from mere stepping stone to Mars into a profound object of inquiry, an artifact whose true purpose may redefine our understanding of Earth's place in the cosmos.